I'm a father of three, husband, U.S. Army combat vet, and I'm from Compton, California. And I grew up in, that I grew up in that part of, well, let's say during a time where, crack was very heavy in the neighborhood, a lot of gang violence and all of that. But honestly, we didn't see that as a cultural issue from my point of view because I was raised in it. So I kind of seen it like an everyday thing. But when it came into law enforcement playing their part in a role, back then I remember baseball cards. You know, I remember I could remember faces of these cops. So they didn't seem as though they were a bad thing, if you know what I mean. Some of them looked as though they were good guys, but as I got older and I kind of seen a bait and switch. Once I came of age, even though I was, I grew up in that area where most of the guys became gang members. It just was what it was because of the, like I said, it's part of the culture there. But the cops, from what I've seen, they also saw that too. So the relationship changed, the dynamic changed, and with that, the mentality changed. You know, I haven't seen too much progress as far as with the gang members and the police. Still to this day, it hasn't gotten any better. I mean, it could get better, but there's issues. But my main thing is we're traumatized as a group. As far as culture, whether it be Hispanic or Black, African American, whatever you want to call us, we traumatized as a group. We still get along within our circles, in certain neighborhoods, but we still look at the badge as an outsider because it's changed over the years. I mean, some of the best people I ever known who were just basically, from my point of view, because I was raised in it, they were just surviving. They did what they had to do, and a lot of them haven't been home since the 80s, 90s, and these ridiculous years and sentences. But I think being traumatized as a group is what needs to be, addressed because some of us don't know any better. Is what and you go straight into the system and never look back. And then you end up at a point where, I teach my kids to be careful with the police because of what I've been through. But I also teach them about the gangs. All of that to me, the police looks like the other gang, if you know what I mean. So the mentality is different because we're traumatized. And the only way I could see that being fixed is I don't even think putting more African American cops in the neighborhoods. I don't think that would really help. I think it's more of empathy within the cops and more programs where we can see those cops hand out basketball cards or baseball cards because my innocence was then. I remember that. I didn't look at cops as bad guys then. I looked at them as they're trying to stop what's going on, but I didn't look at them as bad, But like I said, once I got of age, it became different. So that's what I got.
Raymond, salute. That explains the green, brother. My father was a combat vet in Vietnam. So salute, much respect to you. Raymond brought up a key word that we haven't heard up until this point. He brought up the word trauma. You're talking about people in neighborhoods that experience trauma on a daily basis just within the neighborhood amongst each other. Then you add to it the trauma that exists at times between people in those neighborhoods and law enforcement. And then the third piece of the trauma is the trauma that law enforcement experiences on a daily basis. So we're talking about, in essence, two groups, two traumatized groups that have not been treated for their trauma, and they interact every day, and we expect good things to happen from that. That's a recipe for disaster, and that's why we keep seeing disasters around the country. Untreated trauma. So when you talk about trauma and the effect that it has on your mental well-being and your mental health, that's inside and outside of law enforcement. And we as a society have not gotten past the stigma of mental well-being and doing enough to help people to deal with the trauma that they have experienced throughout the course of their life. And we need to address that. That's a big elephant in the room when it comes to law enforcement.